What is up, guys? Happy week 10. Hope you guys had good weeks 1 through 9. We're now in week 10. This is the time to start getting those teams prepared for the championships. Hopefully, you guys are on your path to a championship. If not, if you can still make the playoffs, now is the time to make sure you're setting these lineups the best you can. Play it safe. If you're down in a matchup, or if your projection is way lower, what I would suggest is going with upside plays. So if you have a safe play and an upside play, go with the upside play. You're going to need those extra points if you want to win, and you're going to need to score a ton of points if you want to propel yourself into the playoffs. But if you've been following my content and if you've been following my Instagram page, hopefully you guys are in a situation where you're trying to perfect your team for the playoffs. I just made a few trades of my own in my leagues. So, I'm going to give you guys the rundown for this week in each of these teams. Also, I am going to be doing some more DraftKings stuff as well. So if your season is over for fantasy football, you can always do daily with DraftKings, which is what I do. And I'm not sponsored by them. Maybe one day, hopefully. That'd be cool. But either way, I'll give you guys some advice on that. And just real quick, because I had some people asking, if you're looking to make easy money on DraftKings, what you want to do is you want to enter the single entry double up lobbies, and all you have to do is beat 50% of the people, and you can double your entry fee into that lobby. I'm going to be giving you guys a ton of names here, a ton of values, and all you have to do is make a roster that scores about 130, 140, 150 points. And you can end up doubling your money every single week. And I've had pretty good luck with that. I haven't hit every single week, but I think I've hit about 7 or 8 weeks out of the 9. So I've been doing pretty well with it. I have a DFS group on Facebook. If you're interested in that, let me know. Either way, let's jump into this. So, as I mentioned, I'm going over the Week 10 matchups. We're going to start with Tennessee hosting Indianapolis. There's an even pick'em spread here, which means they don't want to name a favorite, and I don't blame them. I mean, Tennessee's looked good in the beginning. Remember, they were undefeated at one point, and now they've been slipping a little bit. They lost to Cincinnati, which was a bit of a surprise. And Indianapolis, at times, they've looked like a very strong football team. And at other times, they just really haven't been able to produce anything on offense. So last week they put up 10 points against the Ravens. So either way, 48-point total. Nothing crazy there. With the Colts, this could either end up being over a 60-point game or it could end up being a 15, 20-point game. So let's start first with Tennessee. Ryan Tannehill. First of all, on my website, if you guys go to theffanalyst.com, I have my rankings on there. So I don't hate Ryan Tannehill. I don't love him this week. It's not a great matchup, but in a divisional matchup, I'm sure he'll be fine. You guys can find my rankings if you don't know whether to start Ryan Tannehill or this quarterback or this quarterback or that quarterback. I'll have my full list of rankings there, so you guys can go check that out. Again, theffanalyst.com. So as I was saying, I don't hate Ryan Tannehill in this matchup. Derrick Henry, as we know, he's leading the running back group. He's been doing very, very well on the ground. Last week he disappointed a little bit, but he's got a golden playoff schedule. If you don't have Derrick Henry on your team, now would be the time to try to trade for him. I mean, he's got Jacksonville, he's got Green Bay, and he's got another really good matchup in that 3-week span. So Derrick Henry is someone I'm trying to acquire in a lot of my leagues. But in terms of this matchup, I don't hate it. I don't love it. But, it's a divisional matchup. He has pretty good history against the Colts. So he can end up, giving you 20 points to get you through the week, 10, 15. I'm sure he'll get a touchdown and run for over 100. But, time will tell. He's on a career-high projection in terms of carries. So he's getting a ton of work, even though he hasn't been playing a ton of snaps. Either way, I expect the Titans to be ahead in this game. I do think they will win this game outright. So that could mean better things for Derrick Henry. Wide receiver-wise, A.J. Brown. Ever since returning off injury, A.J. Brown has been very, very consistent and very, very good. He's been a wide receiver 1 in just about every single week he's been back. Corey Davis, on the other hand, he was starting off very, very hot, and I think he had a minimum of like 12 points per game before last week falling off and back into reality. So I'm not a huge fan of Corey Davis this week. If you're desperate for a flex, maybe he brings it back, but I wouldn't bet on it. Tight end wise, Jonnu Smith, he bounced back last week with a touchdown, but he's still not getting much targets at all. So I would look for another option. I have him on my list as well as at the ffanalyst.com. He's in my ranks. I believe he's like 9, 10, somewhere around there. So if you have another good option, I would start them over Jonnu. Regardless, it seems to be one or the other with Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith. I've kind of noticed that because when Corey Davis was gone for that certain stretch of time, Jonnu Smith was killing it. Corey Davis comes back. Jonnu Smith isn't really doing much. Last week, Jonnu Smith gets the touchdown. Corey Davis doesn't really do much. So it seems like it's a one or the other situation with Jonnu or Corey Davis. Take your pick who you think it's going to be. Indianapolis, I believe, is the best defense against tight ends. So I'd put my money more on Corey Davis. So definitely something to keep an eye on. As far as Indianapolis, I don't hate Phillip Rivers, but he's going to be a desperate streaming option for me. The Tennessee defense is not that good. And so I don't hate Phillip Rivers. We've seen him have games where he throws for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. But for the most part, you're getting 1 touchdown, and he's never going to give you anything on the ground. So that's just who he is. Talking about not giving you anything on the ground, Jonathan Taylor, he's been outsnapped 2 weeks in a row by both Nyheim Hines and Jordan Wilkins. I just don't trust him going forward. I also don't trust Jordan Wilkins. But if you are in a PPR, and if this is one of those games where Phillip Rivers does throw 2 or 3 touchdowns, I'd put money on Nyheim Hines being on the receiving end of one of those touchdowns. Nyheim Hines has been his favorite running back out of the backfield. And if they get into a negative game script here, Hines could be the one on the field in third down or catch-up mode offense. So I don't hate Nyheim Hines in this matchup at all. Again, nothing concrete. He could totally disappear, not give you anything, but it's the way it goes. Wide receiver-wise, for the Colts, T.Y. Hilton expected to be back after logging a full practice. I still don't trust him. And on top of that, Michael Pittman is the one last week who he led the team in targets. He actually had over 10 fantasy points. I think he could have a little bit of a breakout this game. I think we might see his first decent game. I'm not expecting anything crazy. Maybe he gets a touchdown. Maybe he'll put more of a stat line of 6 or 7 catches for 80 yards. But he'll put himself on the map in this game. I have a little bit of a feeling about that. So I do like Michael Pittman in this game. If you're in a tight spot, I'd call him a desperate start. As I mentioned, the Tennessee defense secondary is pretty leaky. Tight end wise, Jack Doyle expected to miss this game. And I think he's already been ruled out, which leaves more opportunity for Jack Doyle and leaves more opportunity for, forgive me, I'm forgetting his name, Mo Alley Cox. Mo Alley Cox is one of my favorite tight ends. To stash, I had him as one of my dynasty stashes and dynasty buys in the offseason. But regardless, Trey Burton has been the one getting more targets. Trey Burton has been the one, as of recent, who's been getting more fantasy relevance, whether it's running the ball for a touchdown or seeing targets. So I don't hate Trey Burton in this matchup. In my DFS showdown lineup, I believe I do have both Pittman and Trey Burton in there. So, and I believe I have Hines in there too. But either way, so those are the guys I like in this matchup. And as I mentioned, I think we'll take Tennessee to bounce back here. Okay, we got the Giants hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles being 3.5 point favorites, 44 point total, not bad. Who do I like from the Giants? Daniel Jones, he's okay. He's definitely been a lot better with Sterling Shepard back into the lineup, but I still don't trust him on a week-to-week basis. There was a huge span of which Daniel Jones had no passing touchdowns. I believe it was like from week 2 to like week 6 or 7. Getting Sterling Shepard has kind of solved that, but I still don't trust him on a week-to-week basis. So um, Daniel Jones, desperate, if anything. Devontae Freeman, I'm not a fan of starting Devontae Freeman this week. I know in your leagues he may have a 10, 12, 13 point projection. Just stay away from that situation. He's coming off injury. He's known to be a player who gets injured easily, so he could re-aggravate. I believe it's an ankle that's been bothering him. Wayne Gallman has been playing good. Deion Lewis has been decent as a pass catcher. And then not Matt Breida. Alfred Morris has actually looked decent as a change of pace runner as well. So this could end up being a committee, and Devontae Freeman's not going to be 100%. So I'm staying away from Devontae Freeman as well as all the other Giants running backs. Wide receiver wise, Sterling Shepard, he's looking like an every week start. He's getting a very consistent target share with Daniel Jones at quarterback. Darius Slayton, he's been boom or bust, but we haven't seen the boom in quite some time. I feel like it's been a little while since we've seen Darius Slayton have a good game. So he's going to be riding the bench until I see that. It's a good matchup, right? It's a good matchup. Darius Slayton against Darius Slay. I remember talking about that a while ago. But he's just not getting the targets. He's not, who was it, Austin Mack, who out-targeted him last week. So staying away from Darius Slayton. I'll be looking for Sterling Shepard. I'll be starting him this week. And Evan Ingram, he's starting to gain some consistency, guys. Evan Ingram is starting to get really, really involved in this offense. He's turning into an every week start. And considering how shallow the tight end group is right now, Evan Ingram is definitely an every week start. I think I have him as a top 5 tight end this week, which is not hard to do when Travis Kelce's on a bye and George Kittle is out. So yeah, but as far as Philadelphia goes, Carson Wentz, I do like him in this matchup. I think he's a good streaming option. Miles Sanders expected to return after practicing today, which is Wednesday for me. You guys are going to be seeing this on a Thursday. But Miles Sanders, he's going to be back. I'm definitely going to be starting him. Wide receiver-wise, Travis Fulgham, until proven otherwise, he's an every week start. I am a little concerned this week because Jalen Reagor is going to be back at full strength. And Alshon Jeffrey is going to be making his season debut for the Eagles. And I know he has not been involved in the offense in quite some time, but the Eagles had so many chances to cut him, and they've had so many chances to trade him, and they just haven't. They've kept him on the team. They do view him as a big part of this team when he is healthy. And considering he's most likely not going to be on the team after this year, they're going to want to use him when he's on the field. Plus, the fact that he's practicing in full after the bye. And we've seen Alshon Jeffrey come back from the grave and have huge games. We've seen banged up Alshon Jeffrey gets 2 touchdowns in the day, or so I'm not saying he can't re-aggravate whatever injury he was dealing with, which I think is the same injury he was dealing with last year. But regardless, I mean, I don't know what his price is on DraftKings, but if he's like under 3,500, which he might be, then he might be worth a look. So I'll definitely be looking for Alshon Jeffrey there. And if you're desperate this week, I know his projection is like under 5. But, projections aren't always everything. And what this really does is it kind of caps the ceiling for Travis Fulgham, and it kind of caps the ceiling for Jalen Reagor. So just be aware of that. Don't be shocked if Alshon Jeffrey has 2 touchdowns out of nowhere. On top of that, Jalen Reagor I don't hate as a desperate flex option. It's a good matchup. It's likely that Travis Fulgham or Alshon Jeffrey, considering, depending on how much he plays, is going to be lined up against James Bradbury. So, which leaves Jalen Reagor with the optimal matchup. So, I don't hate Jalen Reagor to have that. He just really needs one big play. So, if you're in a tight spot, don't hate Jalen Reagor. He's like 4,000 something on DraftKings, which I don't hate. I feel like I'm saying I don't hate a lot, which is good. It's good to not hate things. Dallas Goedert, I also don't hate. I mean, he didn't really do much coming off IR. His last game he played, but he's had 2 weeks to get healthy. We know how much Carson Wentz likes to use his tight end when it's not named Zach Ertz, apparently. So, I think Dallas Goedert could be in for a good week. He's also about 4,200 on DraftKings, and you can make a pretty cheap stack with him and Carson Wentz, who's 5,900. I got it all in my head. Don't worry, guys. So yeah, I think Philadelphia wins this game outright. They go to an even 4-4-1. Jacksonville and Green Bay. Let's go on to this game here. So Aaron Rodgers at home. This could be another huge game for him. I mean, Aaron Jones, he's going to be completely healthy in this game, at least so we hope, so we think. Jones was kind of forced into last week because of the fact that A.J. Dillon last minute was put on the COVID list. Jamal Williams, considered a close contact, was also put on the COVID list. Both of them were out. Their lead running back going into the game was Tyler Ervin. So they kind of just put Aaron Jones in there. He did fine, and he managed to stay healthy for the duration of the game. And he's had a mini bye to get well. So I don't have any doubts about Aaron Jones going into this week. It's a great matchup for him. So I'll probably be starting Aaron Jones in my DFS lineups. He's about 7,100. I like that play. Now Devontae Adams, $9,000 on DraftKings, which is huge. That's like Michael Thomas last year price. But rightfully so. I mean, Devontae Adams has had like 40-plus points in 3 out of 4 games. I don't even know how many games he's played, but he's doing fantastic. He's like the wide receiver 3, and he's played like 5 or 6 games. So the price could very well be worth it. And it's a price with some of these cheap plays that you're able to get with a Dallas Goedert, Carson Wentz stack. I'll talk about later how Mike Davis is only $4,000. $4,000 on DraftKings. I don't know how the hell they let that happen with Christian McCaffrey getting injured. But Mike Davis is only $4,000 on DraftKings. So you can make some good lineups. You can save some money and put Devontae Adams in there, which is what I'm doing. Either way, Allen Lazard also expected to come back off of IR and make an appearance in this game. Does that hurt Devontae Adams? No, it doesn't hurt Devontae Adams. It doesn't really hurt him at all. But, I don't know if I'm really looking to start Allen Lazard, though, because it's going to be his first game back. Tight end-wise, Robert Tonyan. I don't know what happened, Big Rob. Started off so hot, and you cooled down so much. You're riding the bench now, or just not even on rosters. He's droppable at this point. As far as Jacksonville goes, for Jake Luton, it's not a bad matchup, and I like some of what I saw from him last week. But he really kind of just had that one play to DJ Shark. He wasn't really all too impressive throughout the entirety of the game. Maybe they'll open things up a little more in this game, but we'll see. So I don't hate him, but I'm not starting him over most of the other quarterbacks there is. James Robinson, great matchup. Green Bay cannot stop the running back. Wide receiver wise, DJ Chark had above a 40% target share with Jake Luton throwing the ball, so he's an every week start. And yeah, I'm not looking at any of these other Jacksonville wide receivers or tight ends or anyone like that. So that's going to conclude that game. Green Bay, I'll take them with 13-point favorites. Next game here, we got the Detroit Lions hosting the Washingtons. So, Matt Stafford, he cleared the COVID list last week. He has been a little banged up, but he's going to make the start this week, hosting the Washingtons. DeAndre Swift, his snap share went back down a little bit last week, but his touches are staying above a healthy 15. So I'm definitely good with starting DeAndre Swift in this matchup, especially because they're 3.5-point favorites. And, with a positive game script, it can only mean good things for DeAndre Swift. Now, wide receiver-wise, Kenny Golladay expected to make a return. He does have a projection for this week, so if he does play, I will be starting him, which puts Marvin Jones back into the bench. And TJ Hawkinson, Washington has been one of the worst teams against tight ends. TJ Hawkinson has been red hot this season. I talked about the inconsistencies at tight end. Well, Hawkinson has been the definition of consistency. I think he only has one game under 10 points, which is awfully impressive for a tight end. He's having a fantastic second year. Not a lot of people talking about it, but Hawkinson's an every week start top 5 tight end for the rest of the year, even with Kenny Galladay back in the lineup. As for Washington, Alex Smith making his first official start off his leg injury. He's played 2 games with Kyle Allen getting injured. But how does this affect the rest of the team? So, running back wise, I know Antonio Gibson is also banged up with a shoulder injury. I haven't heard anything about him missing the game. But J.D. McKissick played 83% of the snaps last week. He had 14 targets. So it seems to be a common trend to where Alex Smith almost lost his leg. So how are we going to protect him? Well, you're going to have an option right next to him at all times where he can dump off the ball. That way he doesn't take hits. That guy seems to be J.D. McKissick. So he's only $4,900 on DraftKings. That's a good price for a guy who got 14 targets last week. It's not an attractive play at all. Don't get me wrong. But J.D. McKissick is being heavily targeted. And if he really is Alex Smith's safety net, he's going to get used a bunch in this game. So, J.D. McKissick, if you're in PPR, I'd call him a desperate start. Antonio Gibson, I also do like because the Detroit defense is very bad against running backs. But, like I said, Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick, both guys I would consider starting this week. Terry McLaurin, every week, wide receiver 1 start. I don't care who's playing quarterback. Dwayne Haskins, Alex Smith, Kyle Allen, Ron Rivera. Put him at QB. I don't care. I'm starting Terry McLaurin every single week. I'm not interested in any of these other wide receivers. Logan Thomas, interestingly enough, has been becoming a thing. I think he had the second or the third most targets behind Terry McLaurin and J.D. McKissick last week. So he is being utilized by Alex Smith. I consider him a desperate start. Any tight end getting over 5+ targets each week definitely deserves to be on the radar, considering how shallow the position is. This depends on Alex Smith's play as well. If Alex Smith comes out and he's slinging and he's doing good and he looks like his old self, because I saw flashes of the old Alex Smith last week when he was throwing these touchdowns. So if we're getting that Alex Smith, then Logan Thomas could have some decent value going forward. Okay, what else we got? We got Tampa Bay going against Carolina. Tampa Bay 5.5-point favorites. Carolina seems to be pretty heavy underdogs every single week. This week does make a little more sense. Tom Brady, he's angry. He couldn't complete a pass. And as a Patriots fan, watching that, I don't know how to feel. Part of me was like, oh, okay. And then another part of me was like, damn, Tommy, what you doing? Like, I can't. It's funny because as a Patriots fan, I've seen Tommy have those games. I've seen Tom Brady have games where he just kind of can't get anything going. He's frustrated. When he gets frustrated, he just can't think straight. So that was my little ramble about nothing. Let's get into these matchups. So, Jesus, sounds like someone's tap dancing upstairs. So, as far as Carolina goes, Christian McCaffrey is going to be out this week. His status was in doubt after getting a shoulder injury. I'm telling you guys, I cannot wait to move out. Cannot wait to move out. If you guys are almost finished with college, work hard, make money, so you can move out, so you don't have to stay at your parents' house. That's all I'm saying. Do I like Teddy Bridgewater in this matchup? Yeah, I don't hate him. Tampa Bay secondary just got torn up by Drew Brees. I mentioned this before. Christian McCaffrey likely going to be out in this matchup. Mike Davis, $4,000 on DraftKings. It's a terrible matchup. I'll give you that against Tampa Bay. Awful matchup. But all he needs is 6, 7, 8 catches. 5 catches, 4 catches. He could get it done. A goal line carry, like $4,000 is ridiculously cheap for a workhorse running back. And that's what he's going to be with Christian McCaffrey out. And we've seen him be that. So, auto start on DraftKings. Mike Davis. Wide receiver-wise, DJ Moore. I don't know what to think of DJ Moore anymore. This seems more like another Curtis Samuel game. Robbie Anderson's been the only consistent wide receiver in this core. Moore at this point is a low wide receiver 2 flex play. And he did have a big game against Tampa Bay last time, but I'm not going to put my money on that again. Robbie Anderson, as I mentioned, every week starter. And Curtis Samuel, a decent flex if you're in a tight spot. He's been very consistent lately as well. Tampa Bay, Tom Brady. I'm expecting a bounce back here. Leonard Fournette seems to be the guy in this backfield, while Rojo is just kind of out of the picture at this point. Wide receiver-wise, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown. Can you actually start all three of these? And Gronk? Throw Gronk in that equation too? I think this is going to be the first telling game. I was hoping to get something from the target share last week, but Chris Godwin got 6 targets. Mike Evans got 6 targets. Gronk got 6 targets, and Antonio Brown got 5 targets. Now, Antonio Brown wasn't playing a full complement of snaps, so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see. And Tom Brady took a couple deep shots to AB as well. So I think if he connects on one of those, Antonio Brown could have a huge game here. It's going to be a statement game. I just talked myself into liking Antonio Brown in this matchup. But, yeah, just keep an eye on that. I think Tommy's going to have a pretty good game. And for a 1 o'clock game, you can try to stack him. Imagine stacking Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown in one DraftKings lineup. I might do that in like one of the $1 lobbies just for the hell of it. That'll be interesting. Gronk, I mentioned the tight end consistency just isn't there across the board, but he is still getting targeted, so I'll throw him in. It depends who else you have, but I'll probably end up throwing him into my lineups. And I think Tampa Bay comes around with this game. We got a couple more matchups to go. Let's see if we can get through these. Cleveland Browns hosting the Houston Texans. Baker Mayfield off the COVID list. His ribs are hopefully healed up at this point. Nick Chubb coming off IR, and he's expected to play this week. Apparently on Friday we will get the official word on whether he is playing or not. But if he is, and I have Nick Chubb, I probably don't have too many other running back options, so I'll be throwing Nick Chubb out there. Now, quarterback-wise, I mentioned Baker Mayfield coming off the COVID list. He is hopefully healthier with those ribs. It's a good matchup for him. And this could be one of those high-scoring shootouts. 49-point total isn't crazy, but I think they can definitely get above that. So I do like Jarvis Landry in this matchup, and I do like Austin Hooper, who's someone I was pretty low on going into the year. But with OBJ out and with this potentially being a high-scoring game, I think Austin Hooper can continue his consistency, which he had before his appendix burst. So, yeah, he's expected to play this week. He's had 2 weeks to recover, which is insane. I can't imagine my appendix bursting and then playing an NFL game 2 weeks later, but, they're pro athletes. That's what they do. As far as the Houston side, Deshaun Watson's been very consistent, so I do like him in this matchup. Running back-wise, David Johnson with a concussion. He's expected to miss this game, so no official word on that. They're calling him unlikely to play. He does. We saw Allen Robinson do this, I think it was last week or the week before, to where he cleared the protocol the day of the game. So it's, David Johnson could not practice the whole entire week and then still play on Sunday. But if he doesn't, Duke Johnson, Duke Johnson revenge game is what we have been all waiting for. I'm just really too excited about that. $5,000 on DraftKings, easy play if David Johnson is out. If David Johnson is in, I'm not touching Duke Johnson. But if Duke Johnson is sitting on your waivers, which he might be, because David Johnson is projected to have points in a lot of leagues right now. But like I was saying, if Duke Johnson is available, grab him. Throw him on your bench. He could be an easy running back 2 play if David Johnson does miss this game. I do like Brandon Cooks in this matchup. I do like Will Fuller. I'm not into any of these Houston tight ends. So, yeah, Cleveland minus 3.5 makes sense considering how Houston's playing. So, yeah, I'll take the Browns to win this game. Las Vegas Raiders hosting the Denver Broncos. Derek Carr, he's not been using his wide receivers at all. It's really just been his tight end, Darren Waller. And I think Darren Waller is going to have a huge game. Josh Jacobs, he's been a little banged up, but he's finding a way to get it done week in and week out. He hasn't had a big game since week 1 against Carolina. So, hopefully, being 4.5-point favorites and Denver not having the best run defense in the world can help him get back on track. So, maybe Josh Jacobs, I'm hoping to see him get more involved as a pass catcher as well. So, we'll see Josh Jacobs' role in this game, but if you have him, you're starting him. I'm not touching any of these Vegas wide receivers. Nelson Aguilar seems to be the best one for whatever reason, but I'm not trusting it. Darren Waller, as I mentioned, he's my tight end 1 this week, and that's just kind of de facto to Mark Andrews not doing much and Travis Kelce being on a bye and George Kittle being out. So, Darren Waller, because of who he is, congratulations, you're this week's tight end 1. I think it was knighting him with my hand. I don't know. As far as Denver goes, Drew Lock has been pretty impressive lately. I mean, he's definitely surprised a lot of people, including me. Someone who hasn't surprised a lot of people is Melvin Gordon. Him and Philip Lindsay just haven't gotten it done the last couple weeks, so it's hard to trust either of them. But I mean, if you have Melvin Gordon, you don't have too many other options, then I understand starting him. Wide receiver wise, Jerry Jeudy coming off a 14 target game. That's with Tim Patrick on the field. So I do like Jerry Jeudy again this week against Vegas. It's a good matchup. Noah Fant, he's banged up. Apparently he re-injured his ankle, or it's his opposite ankle. Either way, he's got an ankle injury. He's questionable for this game. But considering he went back into the game after injuring his ankle, he should be good to go. But keep an eye on that. Their rookie tight end, Albert Okwuegbunam, Albert O, he got a torn ACL. So it's going to be all Noah Fant if he can get back onto the field. And if he can't, Nick Vannett is probably dirt cheap on DraftKings. So, and no matter what, they've been utilizing the tight end one way or another. So just keep an eye out for that as well. Buffalo, Arizona. Arizona's 1-point favorite against Buffalo. 56-point total. That's, I believe, the highest of the week. Just beating Seattle and Rams. I think that's going to definitely be the highest scoring game, Seattle and LA. But we'll get to that one. 1-point favorites is the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray, he's the QB1 in points per game. Love Kyler. Kenyon Drake, he did practice this week, and he's used to playing Buffalo. So Kenyon Drake could be a decent start if he's playing. I've tried to figure out the Chase Edmonds, Kenyon Drake scenario, and what I found is that if Arizona is going to be winning, so if they're favorites, then Kenyon Drake is the better play, and if Arizona is going to be losing, then Chase Edmonds is going to be on the field more to catch passes. Buffalo's been completely hit or miss. They just had a great game against Seattle, but I think they come back down to earth a little bit here against Arizona, and Arizona's going to be at home, so I do kind of like Drake in this matchup. Chase Edmonds, if you're desperate, I think he could be a decent flex play as well. Wide receiver, and by the way, Chase Edmonds did not do any better than Kenyon Drake did on the ground last week. Chase Edmonds had 20 carries for 70 yards. So don't think that Chase Edmonds is going to take priority on the ground. That is still Kenyon Drake's job. Wide receiver-wise, Christian Kirk has been way too consistent to throw on the bench. He's been killing it. I think he has like 5 touchdowns in like 4 weeks, 6 touchdowns in 5 weeks, whatever it is. Christian Kirk is killing it. DeAndre Hopkins could bounce back in this game. He had a little bit of a down game last week. They didn't really need to throw the ball all that much. Well, I mean, they did, but they just didn't. Tight end-wise, you don't trust either of these Arizona tight ends. As far as Buffalo goes, Josh Allen, every week start. Zach Moss, I'm calling him, I'm deeming him, if he hasn't already been, he is the lead back in this backfield. I do like Zach Moss over Devin Singletary now. Singletary has just not been getting it done. As far as these Buffalo wide receivers go, Stephon Diggs, as always, is going to kill it. Top 5 wide receiver. John Brown had a good game last week. A revenge game against Arizona for John Brown. It's been a while since he's been away from Arizona, so I'm sure he's played them once. But he did go to Baltimore, so maybe he didn't. Interesting. Either way, worth noting, if you aren't aware, John Brown, I believe he was drafted by Arizona and made a name for himself there. So keep an eye out for that. He is healthy now. So tight end wise, I'm not looking at any of these Buffalo tight ends. So yeah, that's that. Those are the players I like in that matchup. Miami versus LA. Miami's 2.5-point favorites. I believe they're up to 5-3 now. Tua undefeated as a starter. Rookie quarterback against a rookie quarterback. I do like Tua in this matchup. We're starting to see him get more on the field. We're starting to see him make some plays. I don't think he's turned the ball over yet. So I do like Tua in this matchup if you're looking for a streamer or quarterback. Running back wise, look, with Myles Gaskin out, it could be Matt Breida. There was like Salvin Ahmed and like Malcolm Perry led the team in running back snaps. So I don't know what's going on with this backfield. I don't trust it. Matt Breida, I'm assuming, would be the lead, but again, it's not a solid play by any means. Wide receiver wise, Preston Williams heading to IR. So Devontae Parker, he's the sole wide receiver I'm trusting in this offense. And paired with him, Jakeem Grant, maybe desperate play. Watch out for Mike Gesicki this game. You guys know, if you know me, I'm a Gesicki truther. He's been, I'll put it frank, he's been awful ever since the first couple weeks. But I think this is where he bounces back. I think with Preston Williams out of the picture, Adam Shaheen didn't do all that much last week, and this is going to be a high-scoring affair. I think this is the week where Mike Gesicki gets back on track. I think he's going to be a top 5 tight end this week. Am I going to put my money on it? Probably not, because there's been a couple opportunities like that, and he hasn't come through. But if he doesn't do it now, then when? So I do like Mike Gesicki in this matchup. Hopefully I don't eat my words for that. As far as the Chargers go, Justin Herbert, he's been amazing, so you got to start him in this matchup. It's a decent matchup. Running back wise, Justin Jackson expected to be out this week. Austin Eckler not ready to return. Kalen Ballage is who a lot of people were pretty high on. He has been reverted back to the practice squad, so he is no longer with the starters. So de facto Joshua Kelly is the running back one. But the guy I'm really looking at is Troymaine Pope. He had some success prior to getting injured, and he's a full participant in practice. They put Kalen Ballage back onto the practice squad for a reason. Troymaine Pope is the flex play in this game if you are desperate. Not Joshua Kelly. Joshua Kelly is droppable. He's just not getting it done. He's averaging like 2 yards carry. Just no. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, like both these guys. Hunter Henry, he's been pretty inconsistent, but he's getting the targets. So Hunter Henry's a fine start in this as well. Okay, let's move it along. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 matchups to go here. So New Orleans versus hosting San Francisco. Now, Drew Brees with Michael Thomas has been good. I mean, we saw one game, Drew Brees had 4 touchdowns, and that's the first time I think in quite a while, Drew Brees has done that. So, yeah, I mean, I do like Drew Brees in this matchup against San Francisco. He could be a sneaky DFS play. I'm not sure about the price on Michael Thomas, but we saw Devontae Adams rip San Francisco to shreds. And he's going to be a lot cheaper, about $2,000 cheaper than Devontae Adams on DraftKings. So don't shy away from playing Michael Thomas after a slow first game. He still led his team in targets, or at least tied with Alvin Kamara. That being said, tight end wise, Jared Cook, I don't hate him. I don't love him. And, yeah, I mean, the only guys I'm really looking for are Alvin Kamara, as always, Drew Brees, and Michael Thomas. Drew Brees has this tendency to throw 4 touchdowns to 4 players nobody starts. And he kind of did that last week. I forget who caught it. Adam Troutman was one of them. Traquan Smith, Taysom Hill, I think. And then I forget who the fourth one was. But no matter the case, San Francisco's defense struggling right now. And who do I like on the San Francisco side? So Nick Mullins, he's been meh. He's been okay. He hasn't been that good at all. Running back wise, Raheem Mostert's still out. It's going to be JaMychal Hasty, and it's going to be Jerick McKinnon. And considering New Orleans is 10-point favorites, and JaMychal Hasty played like 20% of the snaps in a good matchup, I'm not touching JaMychal Hasty here. It's going to be another Jerick McKinnon week for me. Wide receiver wise, Deebo Samuel, he's still questionable for this matchup. I think they sit him one more week, which leaves Brandon Ayuk. If you're in a desperate spot, he could be okay. Jordan Reed didn't get the targets. Ross Dwelly, I don't want to take my chances on either of these tight ends. So if you have Jordan Reed or Ross Dwelly, just let him sit on your bench, see how this game shakes out. And then if you see a high target share from either of these guys, or maybe Jordan Reed gets hurt again, because he does, then you can throw them into your lineup next week. Am I seeing this right? Are the Rams 1-point favorites? There's no way. The Rams are 1-point favorites against Seattle. Oh, I'm putting my money on this one. I'm putting my money on this one on Seattle bounce back. I'm sorry. I cannot believe that the Rams are 1-point favorites. That is quite interesting. If that is true in the DraftKings Sportsbook app, I'm going to put some money on Seattle in this one, +1. Wow. That's pretty crazy. Either way, Jared Goff, I do love him in this matchup. Seattle's defense with Jamal Adams has been actually worse than it was without Jamal Adams. He's a liability when it comes to coverage. He should just convert to linebacker at this point, or edge rusher, whatever he's got to do. He's not getting it done in coverage. So I love Jared Goff in DraftKings this week. Running back wise, Darrell Henderson, Cam Akers, Malcolm Brown. Darrell Henderson seems to still be the lead guy. Cam Akers saw a little bit of an increased workload prior to the bye thanks to an injury to Darrell Henderson. So it's kind of a toss-up. Sometimes it's Malcolm Brown, who had 60% of the snaps prior to the bye. So, we'll see. Darrell Henderson, I guess, would be my pick, but he's a desperate flex, if anything. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, those are the guys I'm looking at in this matchup. I love both these guys as low-end wide receiver ones. Cooper Kupp had 20 targets in the game right before the bye. 20 targets. And that was in a bad game script where the Rams were coming from behind. So I think that's what's going to happen here. I know they're 1-point favorites, but I don't buy it. I do not buy it. So I like both those guys. Gerald Everett and Tyler Higbee. Who knows at this point? I don't trust either of those guys. I think a lot of targets are going to be funneled to Robert Woods, and a lot of targets are going to be funneled to Cooper Kupp. As far as Seattle goes, is it going to be a DK Metcalf game? Is it going to be a Tyler Lockett game? I do like Russell Wilson in this matchup. Chris Carson, if he plays, which he is still questionable, you're going to start. Carlos Hyde, unlikely to play this week. Wide receiver wise, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Look, you gotta. These guys are both every week starts, and even though Tyler Lockett's been very inconsistent, I think he's had one good game in the last 6 or 7. If he has a good game here, which by the way, Jalen Ramsey is likely going to be covering DK Metcalf, but if he does have a good game here, he's going to have a good game. I mean, when these Seattle wide receivers have good games, they go all out. If it's between Tyler Lockett getting you 8 points and maybe the rest of your team carrying the load, or him getting 50 points and guaranteeing you that win that week, I think he's worth putting in your lineup. I talked earlier about upside plays and safer plays. Tyler Lockett is the definition of an upside play. But I am still going to start both Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. I understand sitting Tyler Lockett if you have another good option, but how much would it pain you if you put Tyler Lockett on your bench and then he put up 45 points? That would just sting so badly, especially right now when every game is crucial. So just keep that in mind. Pittsburgh hosting Cincinnati. Pittsburgh 7.5-point favorites. Still the only undefeated team in the entire NFL. James Conner coming off a pretty bad game. He just wasn't really involved. It's a good matchup for him. So if I have him, I'm going to start him. Wide receiver wise, you got 3 options here. You got Juju Smith, you got Deontay Johnson, you got Chase Claypool. Claypool led the team in targets. Deontay had 10 targets, and then Juju Smith got the touchdown. So take your pick. I don't hate all 3 of these guys. I don't know how they keep having value every single week, but I'm probably going to end up, I'm pretty sure I have shares of Claypool and Deontay and Juju across all of my teams, and I'm probably going to be starting each of those guys in their respective teams. I think they're all flex plays. I do like Deontay Johnson because every healthy game he's played, he's had at least 10 targets. And guess what? $5,200 on DraftKings. Someone make a note of all the DraftKings players I've talked about in the comments, and you probably get a lineup out of it. I know some people have asked me for lineups. I'm not going to give you exact lineups, but just mark those down, and you probably make yourself a lineup from that. Tight end wise, Eric Ebron, he had a decent week. With how bad tight end is, I don't mind throwing him in your lineup. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow. Look, Pittsburgh's defense has been good, but they haven't been great. They've been letting up points. They've been letting up yardage. So I don't hate Tyler Boyd. I don't hate T. Higgins. I think they're both startable. Joe Mixon is practicing in a limited capacity on Wednesday. If he can get in some more limited sessions during the week, then he should be good to go. If he's not, then Giovanni Bernard should definitely be in your radar. He's had 20 points in just about every game Joe Mixon's been out. So Giovanni Bernard would be a start this week if Joe Mixon is out. And yeah, let's go on to the Sunday night game. Oh, I get to watch my Patriots in primetime. Get smacked by the Colts. New England's home hosting the Ravens, and the Ravens are 7.5-point favorites. Understandable. A pretty low total, which is also pretty understandable. Now, Cam Newton, it's not a good matchup, but I like what I saw last week. I like what I saw on Monday night, and him and Jacoby Myers are really hitting it off. As far as his running back group, there's a chance Sony Michel is back in this game. Damian Harris is banged up. Rex Burkhead is getting in there. James White sometimes is the pass-catching running. I'm not touching any of these Patriots running backs in this game. If it was a decent matchup, I'd say Damian Harris if he's playing, because he's far and away been the best running back in this backfield. But I'm not touching any of these running backs. Jacoby Myers has an awful matchup against the Ravens, but I believe in the Myers and Cam Newton connection. I think even with N'Keal Harry coming back, I think Jacoby Myers is worthy of a flex play at the very least. N'Keal Harry I'm not excited about. And tight end wise, there's no one for New England. So Baltimore, are they going to bounce back? I mean, I think that, Lamar is going to have to beat him with their legs, which lately has been the only way he's been able to beat anyone because he can't do it with his arm. So I think Lamar is going to need to do it with his legs. I think this is a fine matchup for him. No word on if Stephon Gilmore is going to make an appearance in this game. He's been a surprise inactive for 2 weeks in a row. He seems to be disgruntled with the team. Maybe getting a win will change that. Who knows? But either way, Mark Ingram also practicing. So bad news for this Ravens backfield, which matches the Patriots backfield because I don't want to touch any of these guys. So, wide receiver wise, Marquise Brown, no. Willie Snead, no. Mark Andrews, I'm just going to get a recording. With how bad the tight end has been, you have to play Mark Andrews if you have him, unless you have another really good option like a TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant, one of those guys, Dallas Goedert. No, not even Dallas Goedert, Evan Ingram. If you don't have one of those guys, start Mark Andrews. Hope he can get a touchdown. I think he could bounce back. I think he could. There's no evidence to suggest he can, but I think if Stephon Gilmore is back, that weak spot is going to be the tight end position. So, and I think this game is going to be closer than a lot think, and that might be my bias showing for being a Patriots fan, but I think Patriots can cover 7.5. We'll see. Chicago hosting Minnesota. Who do I like from Chicago? I mean, Nick Foles had a decent game last week. He's a desperate streaming option, if anything. David Montgomery in concussion protocol. I haven't heard anything concrete on if he's on path to clear it or not. Just keep an eye on the injury reports throughout the week. It is a Monday night game, so if we don't know by Sunday, you have to bench him. You have to. And his backup is Cordero Patterson, who at that point they're probably just going to throw the ball more. So, I'm not a huge fan of playing the backup or taking a chance on David Montgomery in a meh matchup coming off concussion. So, if you don't know, if you haven't heard, like, if he's going to be active, then don't worry about it. Just bench him. Allen Robinson, I think this could be a huge Allen Robinson game. But watch out for Darnell Mooney. He had 11 targets last week. He's been getting a ton of targets lately. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Jimmy Graham also been very consistent. So I like all those guys. Darnell Mooney, I'll call him a desperate flex. Allen Robinson has been getting it done each week. So I love him in this matchup. Minnesota, they've been relying on Dalvin Cook the last 2 weeks, but he does not have a good history against Chicago. That being said, he's still going to be a running back one. Just not my favorite week to play him. My favorite week to play against him, though. Kirk Cousins, I think he's going to have to throw the ball a little more in this game. Surprised that Minnesota's 2.5-point favorites, but understandable with how they've been playing lately and how bad Chicago has been lately. And considering Minnesota beat Green Bay, it all ties together. Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, maybe a little bit of a bounce back for them. Someone to keep an eye on here, Irv Smith Jr. He had, I believe it was 2 touchdowns last week. Now, Chicago, I talked about this with Jonnu Smith last week. I said, start Jonnu Smith. He's going to get a touchdown. And what did he do? He got a touchdown. You know why? Chicago has allowed a touchdown to a tight end in 6 out of 8 games 2 weeks ago. I told you guys to start Jared Cook against Chicago. He got a touchdown. Last week I told you to start Jonnu Smith against Chicago. He got a touchdown. Now, Irv Smith is a little bit of a different story because he's never been a big part of this offense. But if Kirk Cousins has to throw the ball, in DFS, I think Irv Smith is going to make his way onto my lineup. I just think him or Kyle Rudolph. With my luck, it'll probably be Kyle Rudolph who catches it. But either way, something to keep in mind. So that's going to do it for week 10. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, like it, subscribe. I'll be back again next week, and I'll see you guys later.